there's kind of a natural limit on how much milk a cow will make. A cow produces milk after it gives birth, and it does that for a few months, and then it's done until the next time it gives birth. But capitalists, wanting to increase the amount of milk that cows produce, came up with multiple ways. One of them is forced insemination, where you keep the cows constantly pregnant, take their children away immediately. The veal industry, that's pretty much what that is. But there's another thing. It's called recombinant bovine growth hormone, or RBG. I can't remember. It's been a little while since I've been in the United States. There's a little message on every milk gallon that you buy that says, this comes from cows not treated with RB, whatever. And then there's a little extra, but the FDA has shown there's no difference between cows with this hormone and cows without. Now, what this hormone does is it increases the production of milk. It's basically a steroid, so that female cows will produce more milk. Now, the problem is there's kind of a limit of how much milk a mammary gland can kind of produce, because it's sort of developed for that. So if you increase that, it's going to start having problems. One of those problems that you would have is cows would start getting infections. Basically, their teats would, get wounded from all of the milk production and all of the milking. So they start getting infections. And those infections, of course, were really bad for them. So what they had to do is put antibiotics into the cows to keep them from getting infections. Now, there's actually a second reason for the antibiotics in cows, particularly. In the United States, cows, which are, by the way, there's a bee on me, it's okay. Cows, which are ruminants, cows eat grass. They're like deer and other animals like that. So they eat herbs, and they digest it in kind of a compartmentalized stomach, where they kind of spit it back up a little bit, chew it more, put it back down, etc. And this is a great system for them. They're able to turn all of this stuff into absolutely everything they need. They only need to eat one thing. So this is how they develop. This is how they evolve. This is how cows exist, and they're totally happy. But the problem is, grass is not always available, and grass doesn't have a very high, it doesn't produce a lot of fat in a cow. So dairy farmers figured out that, hey, we could, sorry about that siren, hopefully that's done, yeah. So dairy farmers figured, hey, we could feed them corn. Let's feed them corn, and then that will make them fatter faster, because corn has a lot of sugar and a lot of protein in it, more than grass. So they started doing that. Problem is, cows, as I said, are ruminants, so cows can't really spit up the corn to chew on it again, and so their stomachs get bloated, and that bloating causes ulcers, and those ulcers get infected. So the way to get around all of those infections in cows, both from the milking process and giving them hormones from that, and from the way to get around the ulcers in the stomach, you give them antibiotics. Of course, that is causing all sorts of other havoc to them, making cows antibiotic resistant, etc. Now, all of these extra technological fixes came up, the idea of giving them antibiotics came up because, well, what they were doing to cows was making them sick. But they had to do those, well, they thought they had to do those things to cows, which would make them sick, because they wanted them to produce more. Now, that desire to produce more, that need to produce more, that is the capitalist logic. You can extend that logic into almost everything else you see happening right now in modern capitalist society. We cause a problem, and then we fix it. But that fix always causes another problem, which we then have to fix, which we then have to fix, which we then have to fix. That is Caradon's chase. That is the death, natural limits. Nature itself says, no, you can't go any further. And capitalists say, oh yeah, watch this. So they do. But of course, then a consequence happens. Death becomes inevitable, and say, oh, no, we can get around this by doing this thing. And if you add up all of those contingencies, all of those solutions that we've come up to, you have climate change. You have ecological destruction. You have the destruction of lives. So